I was at mile 6 into the world's most grueling ultramarathon. And I knew that I was in trouble already. The giveaway cue, staring at these very red sneakers and vomiting. And that's never a good thing in a race. But now that I think about it, is it ever a good thing to be puking your brains out? I mean, you wake up in the morning and say, hey, I hope I puke today. But this was particularly challenging because I still had another 140 miles to go. Through Death Valley, where the temperatures would raise by midday 120 degrees. And so I pick myself up and I keep going. Nobody admires the person who starts but doesn't finish. Nobody remembers the person who quits. Success can be boiled down into one concept. 3 simple words, one concept. No matter how tough, how grueling, how difficult, no matter how many roadblocks, how many people get in your way, and even if you doubt yourself, 3 simple words. Who wants to know what they are? If you figure them out, let me know, because my speech would be so much better. No matter how long, how monotonous, how tedious your journey to success becomes, 3 simple words. Who's ready to hear them now? Great. I'm going to tell you in just a minute. But to understand how I got to mile 6 in Death Valley, the world's most grueling race, we need to go back. Go back, way back to when I was a scrawny little teen. The kind of kid who got picked on by virtually everybody. I had a Napoleon complex, to say the least. But my brother, 5 years older, a big guy, big muscles, worked out. He decided to take me under his wing, and he was going to show me how to build muscle, teach me how to defend myself. So after a particularly wimpy workout, we go outside and we sit on the stoop. And he looks at me and he says, if you ever work out like that again, you ever do that again, I am never training you. And it was right after that for the first time, I heard those 3 magic words, the 3 words of success. And he had learned them from our dad, and our dad, I imagine, learned it from his dad. Now, fast forward to pretty much modern day today, just 2 years before I got into Death Valley, I was not a runner. I was just starting to dabble in the running world. And I asked myself, I said, what would be the craziest, most amazing, most ridiculous thing that I could possibly do? And my answer? To run across America. The whole thing, from California to New York. I ran a marathon distance a day for 100 consecutive days. But it's not about the run. Death Valley is not about the run. It's about doing something amazing. Following your calling and doing something truly extraordinary. I ran across America and then attempted to run through Death Valley to illustrate what is possible. But as I was running across the country, a few weeks before I ran across the country, I get a call. And on the other side of the phone is my dad, and he's screaming, crying. And he says, Darren is gone. My brother, Darren? How can that be? Massive heart attack. The paramedics were there. When it happened, they couldn't save him. Running became my outlet. It became a way for me to deal with it, a therapy, if you will. I gave the eulogy for my brother's funeral, and in that eulogy, I used the metaphor of a butterfly. And when the butterfly flaps its wings, it lets off a subtle breeze. But even though we probably can't feel that breeze, it changes the world. And the butterfly became a metaphor for my brother's life. In fact, my sister tattooed a blue butterfly on her back. And as I ran across the country, there wasn't a day that I didn't wish he would be at the finish line. I finished running across America. It was ugly, but I finished. It was successful. I set out to do what I was going to do, living up to those 3 words my brother taught me. I asked myself after I finished the run across America and came to coherency a few months later, says, well, my God, if I did that, what else could I possibly do? I mean, run across America, marathon a day with only a year of training? So what's harder than running across America? There are not many things, but the one thing is Death Valley, the world's most grueling ultra marathon. And what makes this ultra marathon unique, as if any of them aren't really bizarre, but what makes this one special is that you go 146 miles from the lowest point in America to the highest point in the continental United States. And in between, up 120 degrees, up top, freezing temperatures. And in between, 25,000 feet of elevational climb. So to give you a perspective on how much 25,000 feet is, if you took a building and stacked it on top of each other, and you kept stacking on top of each other, it would take 20 Empire State Buildings. But the hard part is this. I wasn't just running. This is solo, self-supported, meaning I could get help from nobody for no reason whatsoever. I got to do it completely on my own. So how do you do that? I push a cart filled with food, water, and supplies that weighs 270 pounds up that climb. So as I'm going through Death Valley and I find myself thinking that it's over at mile 6, I pick myself up and I keep going. I get to mile 11. If we can play the film now. To give you a better illustration of what it is, this is actual footage from that. So at mile 11, I'm teetering on heat exhaustion. I mean, my body's shutting down already because it can't deal with the heat and the stress. Keep going. And then at mile 32, I know that I can't beat the time record, but I still keep going. My body's shutting down. I haven't had food all day, and I'm barely able to keep the water down, and I'm using the water that I have to douse my head, to keep my body regulated at the temperature it needs to be. But echoing in my head over and over and over are those 3 words that my brother taught me. Mile 45, my body's got to the point that it's literally shutting down. And I'm sitting on the cart, which you'll see in just a second. I'm sitting on the cart, and I'm contemplating making one of the toughest decisions of my life. Do I quit, or do I keep going? Is this really a mindset thing, or has my body really shut down? And then to give you an idea of how risky this this is real. This isn't just games. 2 weeks earlier, at the start line, very close to it, an ultra runner legend died on a 6-mile training run. Things went bad, and he never made it back. So now I'm sitting there on the cart, and I'm deciding, do I keep going or do I stop? And I keep hearing the words echo in my head. I'm brought back to that time when I was just that scrawny kid, and my brother is yelling at me, "You ever do that again, and I am not training you. No matter how tough life gets, you never quit. I don't care what happens to you, you never quit. Got it?" Success gets boiled down. You take away all the hype and all of the unnecessary complications, and success boils down to those 3 words. You never quit. No matter what happens, mile 6, whatever your mile 11 is, your mile 32, your mile 45, you never quit. So now I'm at this place, do I stop or do I keep going? And as a clarification purpose, these guys are my crew, videographer, photographer, and a paramedic, just in case to make sure I don't end up like the other guy. But they cannot help me in any way. They're there just simply for documentation and observation. So they pull up, and they come up alongside of me, and I have to make that decision. And they say, what's up? What's the deal? This is it. I'm done. We're going home. And even though they had seen this coming and knew that there was no way that I was actually going to be able to beat the world record, not only could I not beat it, but I don't think I had enough water to finish it because I'm so behind schedule, and I don't think my body would have allowed it. So instead of risking injury, I decide to pack it in and go home. And they storm off, and they're pissed, of course, and it's understandable, but Josh, the videographer, he turns around and he says, "Croix, how can you do this? You're the guy who goes around speaking to people, inspiring them to follow their dreams and to never quit. I've heard you speak hundreds of times inspiring people that you never quit, and this is exactly what you're doing. And Josh, who's normally a very zen guy, storms off back to the van. 2 of the crew went back to California, and Josh and I jumped in the van, and we headed to Las Vegas. When I was at mile 45, I tried to do a Control-Alt-Delete on my body. So that's where I go through a polyphasic sleep, and in tiny little micro increments, you can rest that mimics much greater sleep. So I could do it as little as 7 minutes, but it takes 90 minutes for a full cycle. So when I was sitting on that, right before that picture was taken on the cart, I went to sleep for 90 minutes. Like, try to reboot. Didn't work. So I remember the words of Marshall Ulrich, the very guy who held the record I was trying to beat. He told me, he says, the desert's a different beast. You may need to sleep for 4 or 5 hours, and if that's the case, then do it, because you'll make up for that investment in rest in time. But obviously that didn't work. But as we're driving back in that van, and if you were in there, you wouldn't have heard anything other than the creaking of my gear in the back. The Control-Alt-Delete, it kicked in. A lot of good it does me now, hours later, but I'm starting to feel good. And I don't mean like a little bit. I'm starting to feel amazing, like my superpowers are back. But now we're already almost in Vegas. So I look over at Josh, who's driving, and I say, Josh, what if we go back? I can't leave it like this. What if we go back? And Josh says, are you kidding? You didn't even make it a third of the way through. That was the most epic failure of your life. And you think you can go back in 3 days with tired legs after you just pushed that cart for 45 minutes? Yeah, I don't think so. Josh, if I keep feeling better in the morning, ask me again and I'll let you know if we're going back. Because I'm not talking about next year. I'm talking about in a few days. So the next morning comes around and I go staggering into the kitchen where Josh is already having his coffee and he says, what's the deal? I think I want to go back. Don't tell me you think. Are you committed or not? I cannot leave it like that. I have to go back. Win, lose, or draw, if I don't finish it or not, it doesn't matter. I cannot stop the way I did. I have to try again. And so 3 days later, we're back in Death Valley. Not at mile 45, all the way back to mile 1. And I have to do the same thing over. Cart fully full, all of the food, water, and supplies I need, and I'm going down the road. And at mile 6, something truly beautiful happens. Something I never expected. In a place where nothing lives, essentially, a little blue butterfly starts circling around me. And it stops for a moment right in front of me. It looks just like the blue butterfly my sister has on her shoulder. So I look at the butterfly and I say, bro, it's good to see you. It's been too long and I miss you, man. But you never quit, right? And I keep going past mile 11, past mile 32, past mile 45, the very spot I stopped, and I'm ahead of schedule, and I power up the mountain, down and then back up to where I drop my cart off, and I put a backpack on that's in the cart, and that's the last marathon of the race, that I carry a backpack and everything I need to go up to the freezing temperatures of Mount Whitney. And I start going up that mountain. And as we're going up that mountain, I start staggering. I mean, like literally, I'm falling down, and I'm holding onto walls, and Josh is like, dude, you okay? And I keep going, and I thought my body was just done. I thought it was just like, it's fatigued out, 65 hours or whatever we were at that point, and I thought it was just shutting down. And then the video that we're going to play right now is me talking about what happened coming up the last few miles of the mountain. I'm 2 miles from the end.
I went into low glycemia, which basically would have meant I would have passed out. And Josh would have had to hit the SOS, and by the time they got here, I probably would have froze to death or just died. Luckily, I was an EMT for 6 years, so I recognized the symptoms and knew what to do. And almost guaranteed saved my own life up here. When I took that energy drink, I just skyrocketed, energy, everything just went nuts. And I felt awesome, felt like a superhero.
You already said that.
And then I crashed.
Ah.
And that's what cued me off to being sugar and staggering and falling down like a drunk. Just immediately after feeling the most amazing I think I've ever felt in my life. So that was kind of my clue. I started figuring it out. Then I started feeding everything I could possibly have, all the salts I had in my pockets, all the just food I had in my pockets, and started leveling out. And then I just wasn't right still. So I did an 8-minute reboot with the sleep, because I haven't slept in 24 hours or so, probably more.
How long you got till the end?
Got 2 more miles to the emergency shelter up top. So we're going to go up there. I'm going to touch my little official finish line and then get into the emergency shelter because it's the closest thing for safety. It's a hell of a lot closer than going down. And then from there, I can stabilize myself more and make sure I'm safe to come back down the mountain.
Oh.
Crazy dangerous. I never expected this. This was way big surprise.
That was 2 miles from the finish line. And after that video, I finished my 2 miles. I got to that medallion. I put my watch down. I took a picture of it to document my time. 72 hours and 55 minutes. Just over 3 days. It doesn't matter if I beat the world record or not, the thing that I had been training for so long, for a year. What matters, not even that I finished, but that I never quit. Because amazing things happen when you never quit. What is it in your life that would radically change your life? What would make your life better if you did just one thing this year? Is it lose 50 pounds? Is it pay down some debt? Is it start a business? Is it a relationship? What would make your life amazing if you never quit? If you can stand up with me for a minute and do exactly what I'm doing. Put your hands out like this, about that far apart. This is how close you are to your goals. This is how far you are from your goals. Quitting, you never quit. Do exactly what I do. It's all about mindset. It's making the choice to continue and go on. It's about not giving up when it becomes difficult. And no matter what happens, help me with this one, no matter what happens in life, you keep going forward because you never quit.